All right, here we go. Hey there, fellow Gen Xers. Welcome to Gen X Vibes, the ultimate podcast for anyone who's ever rocked a Walkman or sipped from a garden hose. I'm your host, Jen, joined by my brother and co-host, John Pat.
Hello, hello from San Diego and the
Together
moon.
together we're on a mission to unite and preserve the spirit of Gen X. Each week, we'll dive into a different aspect of the 70s and 80s culture and celebrate music, movies, and memories that shaped our generation. So hit pause on the chaos of real life and rewind with us back to the simpler time when all we needed was a boombox and a mouthful of Bazooka. Together, we can keep the vibe alive. Gen X Vibes. All right, and this is our debut episode. So thank you, John Pat, for doing
Bazooka.
this. I'm very
You know,
excited.
Bazooka only kept its flavor for about as long as these podcasts last. So,
Not even.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we want to go shorter podcasts, we can do the zebra stripe gum.
I was just gonna
Remember?
say
Yeah,
the same thing. Yeah.
yeah.
Like by the time you got it out of its paper, it had half of its flavor.
Yeah, you actually saw it float away. You're like, oh, there goes the flavor. Let me see if I can get it back, and what have you.
Exactly. Although it's sad, I still actually Bazooka's not the same, so I don't chew that like I used to.
Oh my God, you were addicted to that.
I used to put it in my bra to warm up so it would be soft.
At least
Giving away some of my
Bazooka Joe got there.
oh come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Too many people got there.
Oh, so that's why you always referred to your boyfriend as Joe. From
Please.
there you
I
go.
wish half of my life were as easy as I was in the 80s.
Oh,
But
parents are so proud.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, no,
But I thought with this debut episode, we could just kind of let people know a little bit about ourselves and why we're doing this, and then our hopes, for this. So you want to go
yeah.
first? Want me to go first?
I mean, I guess I'll give it a whirl. For me, it's funny more and more as I've gotten older and older. I know I don't look it, yeah, but I am in my 50s.
Not your face right now.
You shut up. Thank you. Oh my God. Um, but yeah, like anything that I see that is an homage to the 80s or what have you, it invokes in me just this sense of peace, a sense of momentary happiness. For example, when the TV show on Netflix, Stranger Things came out, like
Mhm.
I got into that in a big way because it transported me back to almost to that time and that age.
Right.
And as much as I was a 50-year-old man watching these shows, I felt like I was a 12-year-old kid riding my bikes with my friends.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going on in my life, and I don't know what's going on in the world to make me feel so much like I need that. But
Mm.
the fact that when it does happen, it just, for that momentary reprieve, it's just really valuable. And so the idea of, doing anything that we can to help people, have that touch point back to that feeling or that period in their life, I think, would it be helpful?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think you're alone in that. So yeah, exactly. Um, But yeah, so Pat and I, you'll find I call him Pat. He goes by John. Um, don't get confused. Just stick with us. But we are brother and sister. I'm just the tiniest bit older than him. We grew up in in New England, in Connecticut, and with three other siblings. We were 70 and 71. So most of the stuff we talk about, that's going to be our anchor, right? In terms
Hmm.
of how old we were for when we talk about things. And we're just going to kind of take topics and reminisce and kind of get that feeling back and have that kind of respite from the real world. So that's the plan. And I think that's the hopes too. So I think we really hit on it there. Anything else you want to share about yourself before so everyone knows as we go forward?
Yeah, the only thing that I would kind of caution is as I've been thinking about doing this podcast with you and looking back, how wildly uncool I was and am. And so thinking back and researching the 80s, really it's interesting because a lot of the things that truly are iconic, I somehow missed out on. Like I'm aware of them. They were part of
Mhm,
my consciousness and what have you, but I never really deep dove into them
mhm.
because as you know, I was more of a basement dweller, as you lovingly referred to me.
That
Um,
was Alice. That was not me.
fair, potato, potato. Anyway, but it is fascinating, and it's also so fascinating for me about the the fact that out of all of the 80s or Gen X, my consciousness is only a little bit, but it's
Mhm.
also important to me. But then as I talk to other people about it and what they bring back, it kind of, brings this flood of memories, even though it might not be personal to me, just
Mhm.
the fact that it was part of, the environment or my consciousness. I'm like,
Right.
oh yeah. So
Well, and
yeah,
I think that's going to happen a lot here. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I think that's the whole thing. And I also wonder if, our exact years of when we were born kind of hits that. Like you talked about our cousin Chad, being in on the fashion and stuff, but that was a couple years,
removed a couple of years
yeah,
after
you
us.
know what
Yeah.
I mean? So I think it's going to be interesting, what does resonate and what doesn't, and what we actually experience and what just brings us, back to remember.
Hmm.
Yeah. So,
Yep. But
um,
it's also interesting, and I don't know the answer to this. I don't know whether it was because I was just fundamentally uncool, or it was because like there's an element of me that feels like our coming of age period, which was the early to late 80s, like the 80s.
right.
I wonder whether or not that really was the beginning of this culture of like fads. I mean, I guess not, because you had disco and you had so on and so forth, but like when I think of Chad, for example, there were certain fads that really hit hard in the 80s, and I feel as though he participated, or his mom bought him, and in a lot of
He
those
was plugged
fads.
in. Yeah, he
He
was
was plugged
plugged
in.
into it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he and they were plugged into it.
Mhm.
And for whatever reason, I was not, or we were not. And I wonder whether or not like the 80s was the beginning of this fad culture, or whether it was just that, like, I was seeing it, from the outside looking in. Who knows?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, first thoughts is that eh, every generation has its fads, right? And it's just the ones that, as we came of age, stick
Yep.
with us. I never forget though. I remember like being in high school and being like, it's so weird that they had like 70s parties and 50s parties. What are they gonna in the 80s? Because we're just normal. We
Oh
don't have
yeah.
like trends and fads.
Yeah.
This is how
Meanwhile,
people
your hair's up to here. You're wearing neon fishnet gloves, right?
with the
And
sweatshirt off the side and
and
yeah.
the actual quote was something like, "Oh my God, like, what are they gonna do later? Because
Dude,
like it's gonna
seriously.
be gnarly."
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to have to share this time with you because I shared that time with you. So
Hmm.
I think it'll be really fun, and I hope that.
Are we allowed to bring up all of our traumas from that time as well? Because I've got some bones to pick with you, and I feel like this public forum might be just the right place to do it.
Um,
Mm, mm,
and so I'm going to wrap it
moving
up.
on. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
All right. Yeah, we'll take everything organically. Yeah,
That's unfortunate because I developed a list. And by the
Oh
way,
my
does this
God.
does this remind you of the?
Oh my God, on a
There you go. Yeah,
composition book. Whoa.
composition book,
I
exactly.
vicariously remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So this is our inaugural one, and we look forward to taping more and having the conversation going and keeping the vibe alive. Gen X vibes. Talk to you later, John Pat.
Later.